So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Helltaker, so let's start the series. Even the depths of hell would have preferred stillness on this day of all days, yet in a red sky where the only sound in this awful planet was humans screaming. A massive skyscraper made of the purest white steel towered over a large stone city, and on the top floor of that structure were 2 rows of black stone statues that looked demonic and had their arms crossed menacingly. At the far end of the room was a woman whose beauty was unmatched if anyone had to ask. This is the CEO of the underworld, the leader of hell, the first fallen angel who rebelled against heaven, Lucifer Morningstar. A short woman with silvery white hair, red irises, a black arrow-tipped tail, and pale skin. Lucifer has narrow eyes with a mole under her left eye. She wears a black suit with a red collared shirt underneath, complete with white gloves, a black tie, and her sigil on her lapel. Her hair is long and tied at the end, with bangs held in place by a black, spiked hairband. Damn it, I cannot show weakness. She muttered in hate, her slight accent becoming more pronounced in her tired and sour mood. Ring of heresy, ring of lust, ring of greed, she shouted loudly, typing out the justified punishment she deems the bastards that were sent to her domain, just like, Gah. She threw her screen out the window, then her mouse and keyboard, then a picture. Her eyes softened as she glanced at the arm that was going to toss the object. She saw a young man who appeared anxious as the photographer took his picture. "Why did you have to go?" she asked, gently stroking the picture's cheeks with her thumb. She then collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face at the unfairness of the world she had to live in. "Why did you have to leave us when you gave us so much happiness? You foolish man." The underworld CEO whispered, holding the photo as close to her chest as she could. Today was the day her sweetheart passed away in her arms, and she leaned over since she was at her breaking point. The justice floor, 8th floor. One woman was continuously punching a sandbag, which was the only sound audible on the floor, in an area where all that was visible was exercise equipment. "Ha, gah," she exclaimed as each punch sent the bag flying in an arch pattern before letting it return with more force and sending it flying once more. "I should have made it, I should have saved him," she yelled in an unusually angry tone for anyone who knows, despite the fact that the sandbag was filled with sand that would break a bodybuilder with a body made of pure muscles. Despite the pain her arm was in, she was sending it back successfully, and blood was leaking from her punching glove as she continued to destroy her limb for the sin of not being able to protect him. This is Justice, the former High Prosecutor of Hell. Like Lucifer, she is a short demon girl with silvery white hair, a black arrow-tipped tail, and pale skin. She has a short ponytail tied on the back of her head, secured with a red bandana. 2 tiny black horns protrude from her hair, round at the tips, and she has white eyebrows and sunglasses to conceal her gray, colorless eyes. Justice wears a black suit jacket around her shoulders, unbuttoned, and sports red fingerless gloves with metal tags marked HPJ on the wrists. Like the other girls, she accessorizes her black pants with boots and a belt. She also sports a black tie with 2 silver clips fastening it to her red shirt. In this underworld, the woman was a really kind and laid-back person, but tonight she was the complete opposite, substituting her typical easy and enjoyable workout for a challenging and bone-cracking one. Why? Because she didn't take her job with laser focus seriously, which is why someone she loved died and they were all in sorrow. She was to blame. If only she had taken the fight more seriously. She sighed deeply as her breasts trembled from the pain she was torturing herself to obtain. She ran to a wall and continued punching the sandbag, tears streaming down from her colorless eyes, which may have been caused by her hateful punch that tore the chain training equipment off the ceiling and in half. Justice simply carried on since this was the day she had her beloved slain, and she didn't care that her recklessness was the reason she was causing suffering at the time. XXXXX. The 99th floor. XXXXX. 3 girls, each holding something close to their chest and whimpering softly, are lying in bed with dejected expressions. These 3 girls, like Lucifer and Justice, had white hair, pale skin, red eyes, and tails. Unlike the other demons, they do not have horns, but instead have white canine ears that protrude from under their hair on the top of their heads. They all have canine teeth, as shown by the small fangs in their mouths in their idol sprite. Their eyes are large, round, and wide, giving off an enthusiastic expression. They have parted fringes, and their hair reaches all the way down their back, where it is tied into a short tail. These 3 girls wear more form-fitting clothing, with black gloves and black ties tucked under their vests, black gloves, and black cuffs over their red shirts just below the shoulder. These 3 females, or more accurately, Cerberus, the triple demon, and the guardian of the gate of hell, are all one and are often divided into 3 bodies for their own entertainment. They were never as content or active when he left them, and the little joy they did have in patrolling and guarding the entrance to hell was hardly there now that they were all lying on top of the bed that served as their master and lover. They were cradling their bodies into his clothes, sheets, and pillows to keep his scent fresh in their minds. They all whimper and whine in the hopes that he will open the doors and they will tackle him as usual, but one hit her face in the bed, another assumed a fetal posture, and the final one just let the tears fall freely. The girls lost their dear master today, and they will do everything in their power to bring him back, but every day that goes by hurts more. XXXXX. Graveyard outside. XXXXX. A woman was standing outside in the only cemetery in hell, facing a single tombstone. She had the same appearance as the other 3 demon females, but she had 2 small black horns that protruded from her hair, which was quite short and mostly covered her left eye. She also had black eyeshadow and piercings on her mouth, ears, and nose, as well as various black bracelets on her arms, one of which reached to her fingers. She also wore a choker in addition to her white cross necklace. Her basic outfit consisted of a red tuckered shirt, black skinny jeans, and black, knee-length heeled boots. The woman, whose name is Strada, the betraying demon, or, depending on who you speak to, the bitch demon, moaned as she kindled a tiny flame with her thumb to light a single cancer stick that burnt from the fire. On this fucking day, Strada was leaning against the wall, her lips barely holding onto her lit cigarette. She recalls it clearly because she was always the one who trusted him, even after he passed away. She remembers that he had little time left and that he asked Lucy to have him say his last words to them, giving them each one last moment before he passed away. She has flawless recall of every phrase. Please grin for me, Z, that even though his body is gradually deteriorating, she can still recall his smile. She whispered, "Yeah, I'm smiling, sweetheart," as she used her pointer and middle fingers to remove the cancer stick. She is unable to pronounce his name because doing so would prevent her from maintaining her typically composed expression. A younger Strada sobbed as she clung onto his hand, pleading, "Please don't go." Recalling all of the moments preceding his passing, his kind and compassionate disposition, she recalls him throwing her on his back to run around hell for fun, saying, "Can be rude, don't want to," and how he always appears a little smug with just her. To forget, Strana of kind Anks. Her thoughts return to that terrible day, when she was unable to concentrate due to the sadness she was finding difficult to bear. "Can you say that again?" she muttered, seemingly hoping she would recall those words. Always treat them with kindness. She recalls the boy's sweet smile before he mouthed something she couldn't recall. See, can you say that again? She closed her eyes and let the tears fall, vividly imagining the scenario. Many thanks, Z.P. Please, he always reminded her. Strada cried as she slowly dropped to her side, her arms beginning to travel around her body. Please, come back, she said, her arms wrapped around her body since she could no longer contain it. Because today was the day she could no longer turn to her beloved for solace. With her back to the wall and her head drooping like though life had been ripped from her soul, a woman whispered gently, "My love." Her eyes were emotionless and lifeless, and she was holding an orange-red scarf in her fingers. This woman's hair is wavy and unruly, with a few prominent cowlicks scattered in no particular pattern. She has a left-swept fringe that ends at the height of her eyebrows, and two long hair segments in front of each ear that fall to chest height and end in a zigzag pattern. Her irises are still red, but instead of black pupils, she has glowing white pupils in the shape of hearts, and beneath her eyes, there is a constant, albeit varying, flush. She is wearing a black blazer with a red turtleneck sweater underneath, a black pencil dress, and red leggings. A smile began to appear on her lips as she lifted her hand and could nearly see Modius the lustful demon, or was, until someone passed away and took away the majority of her reasons for existing. "I love you," she muttered, hoping he would hear her, as her hand attempted to encircle the hand she believed was there, killing her movement as it fell next to her. She said it again and again, and like the years before, she wallowing in her own misery and screaming in grief that she would never be able to love anybody again or feel loved. Lust was simple to love but agonizing for her to give to anyone else, but to him, because today was the day she would never be able to love again. Despite wearing a sad grin, a demon girl mumbled, "Not even your lovely fur can ease my broken heart." She was looking up at a baby goat and petting it tenderly, her eternal smile barely able to remain because of her recent actions. "My sweet pet," she muttered. The only thing you notice about this demon is that she had closed eyes, which gave her a warm and trustworthy demeanor. She wore a button-up blood-red shirt, black pants, and two suspenders that framed her breasts and kept them up on her lovely waist. Her ivory hair was long and flowed out naturally, with a set of horns on her head like the others, but her forehead was covered by well-maintained bangs and two hair accessories that looked like goat ears. "I laughed at the fact many mortals love me to which they died for it," she whispered, closing her eyes as the scent of love-making with the only man who touched her body as a human lingered in her mind. Her name was Baffet, the mysterious demon to many of her own kind and to humans. She was only romantically involved with goats, except for one person, and her eyes opened up to reveal red pupils that had a manic look to them. Baphomet muttered softly as she bent her head, remembering him and his aroma only through the fabric of her love. "I guess it's my own fault for loving a human back. Irony is pretty meany heh," she said, pulling a little piece of fabric and holding it tightly to her chest. "Because her human sweetheart passed away today." Clank. A woman lifted her empty glass, which contained only ice, and muttered, "Fuck." She was prompted to refill it, saying, "I need more." The devil stood up and revealed her appearance to the world. She was wearing a black button sleeveless vest over a red working shirt with the sleeves folded just below her elbows, long working pants over a short black pencil skirt, and 3-string bracelets on each wrist. The demon sighed as her back slid down against the wall. "Z better not have stolen my good stash for today," she said, moving to a refrigerator and taking out a chilled vodka bottle. She drank the contents while expertly tearing the cork, as any long-time drinker would know. She was the demon, but what good was that without him? Except for him, no one could match her ability to read people or anticipate their every move. A tiny smile briefly appeared on her face before turning back into a frown because it wasn't fair. She met someone she truly liked and who made her smile in this hellhole. She fell down here with her sister because, before she looked at the bottle, she shook her head, but she let it go because she can't drink too much or else she could forget him. My love. She muttered quietly, and her heart was never the same after he passed away. Molina cried the day she lost her favorite person in her entire life, saying, "Idiot." Hundreds of men and women were suffering in a vast crimson expanse of emptiness as ghostly transparent shackles tore or crushed them in two. One woman stood atop a cliff and would have watched and relished the punishments meted out to them appropriately. The woman was none other than the current High Prosecutor of Hell, Judgment, who was very different from the other demons. Instead of wearing the usual red button-up shirt, pants, and gloves, she wore a suit jacket that was torn to reveal her stomach and a bra that partially exposed her breasts. She also wore a thick belt with a pentagram medallion on a chain attached to it, and she wore only underwear instead of pants. "My king," she muttered, recalling that her title had been bestowed upon her the day after her predecessor passed it down to her and her beloved teacher passed away. She would have enjoyed the cries and agony of the sinners who were condemned by her hands, but not today, since she still believed she didn't deserve this honor. She spent every year on the day of his death not really devoted to her work like any other day. Judgment didn't think she was deserving of this authority yet, he was meant to be present when it occurred. The warrior prosecutor couldn't help but smile when he saw the places where people were suffering. Her darling savior and king of hell disappeared from her life on this day. Sniff asterisk, a young but obviously exhausted demon woman wiped her eyes when her emotions got the better of her once more. She turned off the computer and saw her reflection on the screen. Her hair is wavy and styled in 3 large curls that rest on her forehead, with the middle curl being larger than the 2 on either side. It reaches down both sides of her head, tucked behind her ears, with both ends curling inward at the bottom of her head near her chin. She also has a ponytail on the back of her head with 2 more large, distinctive curls. 2 small black horns protrude from her hair, and she has white eyebrows and noticeable dark circles under her rounded eyes, which give her a weary appearance. The newest member of Queen Lucifer's inner circle, Pandemonica, the tired, sadistic, demon, spent another endless day serving her regular clients and customers in hell, where they beg her for help or yell at her. Oddly, she does give advice and performs her job well, but keep in mind that she is in hell with people who are sent there by literal seconds. There are around 100,000 people in hell for every person she assists, but at least she gets paid overtime, and coffee doesn't grow. The young woman sighed as she glanced at a small egg timer on her desk and took a moment to write down how long she was going to take a break. Humph. He would have made me take a longer one, Pandemonica thought as she went to a nearby corner of the room that had a small pot and cup. She was about to grab an open jar of coffee grinds when she stopped herself. No, she needed the big gun, she said, moving her hand to the wall and removing a small tile to reveal a bag where she threw out the last bits of coffee grounds that glowed in an angelic light. My last blend from him. She muttered out, drawing on the centuries of only brewing a single cup each time when she found it difficult to move on. But since it was the last one, the young woman took a moment to reflect on her life. She decided that since this was the last cup, she should take out his file and put it to bed. Done, she said, slowly pouring the water until it was a perfectly crafted cup of hell brew coffee. Taking a tiny sip, her spirits returned, but they were a little dampened when she had to complete the task. She pulled out a file that read, Finish at Pandemonica, and opened it to read the first and basic statistics. Naruto, last name unknown, born in XXXX, raised in XXXX, was sent to hell by his own request when not taking heaven's offer to go to their side, she muttered using a pen, a rare occasion because she loves using computers. Conclusion: after being blasted by the traitor's magic, his body turned into light and faded in front of Queen Lucifer and Dash. After taking another look at the paper, she hurried to her computer and looked up files about some souls that were destroyed or released back to heaven. Turn to stone shattered, turn to ice shattered, burn to ashes and scatter, none of them faded, she muttered as she snatched up the remaining coffee. In a rare moment of regret, she drank it all at once, her eyes wide with mischievous delight. Well, time to investigate, she said. Pandemonica merely grinned as she performed it for hours on end. It was real. Pandemonica, what the H? I'm trying to make a legitimate hellhole and you are screwing me. Get back to Dash, Lucy. Naruto is alive, she said, looking at a ringing phone as it clicked. I'm getting the rest, you better not be lying, come here when you're ready, Lucy said again after a pregnant silence during which neither of them talked. She then commands the now somewhat animated demon to retrieve her notes so she can properly explain what she learned to the other females. XXXXX. As Pandemonica entered their queen's room and said, "Everyone, I have important news," Lucy saw how the sad atmosphere in the room substantially reflected the strange mood of the others as well, since it was not a suitable day to discuss their business. "On him, correct?" Lucy asked, raising an eyebrow at the woman's comments, while others looked either intrigued or a little irate. "Proceed, Pandemonica," she said, and the others watched as the person wearing the spectacles paused to catch her breath. As the others gazed down in agony at the recollection, she began, "As you are aware, today is the day we lost our sweetheart, Naruto. That when the traitor Beelzebub revolted against our queen, Justice, and Naruto stopped her but." Molina snarled in frustration at the office worker, "We know. Thanks for the terrible memory," she said. "He died protecting Justice. Come now, no need to be riled up," Baffet said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Her feeble smile changes into a tiny frown as she turns to face her co-worker. "Pandemonica, please explain why telling us such awful memories," she said. The lady nodded. "It's because, he might be alive, I took notice of his death, it wasn't like the others, and even checked the remains of the others who did, their ashes are part of this hell, but he isn't, there's not even a trace of it, he's alive because the attack he took didn't kill him, it blasted him back to the world of the living." When Pandemonica looked at the other people's faces, she saw that Lucy was the only one who didn't change, but that her left hand was clenched into a fist, probably holding in some complex feelings about the situation. She even twitched her lips to keep from smiling, which would have caused a lot of problems because she was their queen. The other people's reactions seemed mild in comparison to how she had anticipated them to react. All right, she must still blame herself for her error against the traitor, thought the weary demon as she took off her glasses to reveal her blind eyes and her shocked look with a hint of hope in her eyes. As they approached and clasped hands with joyful smiles, the Cerberus girls exclaimed, "Alive! Really, truly, alive," the three of them said, their tones matching in delight at the news. Pandemonica let out a small sigh of relief that she had not anticipated the reaction to be so. The others turned to see Lucy glaring at the weary demon. Come on, seriously. We all saw him die, centuries passed and he wasn't sent back here. It's not true, the traitor/bitch demon reminded them all. I'm leaving, Strada said as Lucy snapped her fingers as big stone golems prevented her from fleeing. Molina stated, this better not be a fucking joke, Monica, as she took a gulp from her big bottle of whiskey and glared at the bookworm. Pandemonica's body went cold when she turned to see what was causing it, and the room went cold as well when they saw Baffet open her eyes and darken her unusual frown. I hope you're not jesting, Pandemonica, or at least I turn you into one of mine pet goats. She warned, stepping forward to demonstrate her dominance, until Judgment also moved forward to stand between the two. Of course that's if you play a cruel joke, she said with a giggle, but her eyes conveyed a dark intent to support it. But with Lucy's ability to check on the living world, we can see if he is there, the tired demon remarked candidly as the others exchanged glances. I won't lie, I don't have the entire proof of the situation, but I believe it can happen, she said. As Pandemonica examined her notes, the leader turned to face the woman with the bespectacled eyes and questioned, how sure are you? The tired demon said, I can't really tell what the exact percentage is, but 78%, while Lucy glanced at the others. Tell me, do you all still love him? Lucy asked to the others, who were all looking down from the pain of their lover's absence. Do you all wish that's there any way we can be with him again? Lucy asked, and they all nodded weakly as she smiled. Do you all love him even if he wasn't the same one we met? Because, I would, she admitted as the others paused to talk. Justice put her palm on her hip and grinned broadly. Yeah, I would love him again, she said. With resolve in her eyes, Modius exclaimed, I would love him all over again. We're in, even if he isn't the same we care for him, Molina said with a sigh before turning to face Strada, who grinned weakly. Yeah, what Malika says, she said. With puppy dog eyes, the Cerberus sisters begged the queen, please, /miss/Lucy. We want to see our master once again. I would do anything to repay my debt to the man who gave me everything, she said softly as Justice patted her shoulder, looking timid as she scratched her cheek with her claw or finger. Looking at Pandemonica with benevolent eyes, Baphomet grinned broadly and said, yes, I think we should take that chance and, thank you Miss Pandemonica, I apologize for my threat. As the queen glanced at her subjects and inner circle, the bespectacled woman waved it away and said, with yours being also on the affirmative Queen Lucifer, I shall give mine, I love him, desperately so, may we try to find him? We may, she said with a clap of her hands as everyone looked up to find the ceiling turned into a mirror. Anyone have any of Naruto's? The fallen angel questioned, while everyone else gave her a deadpan look. Hey, I'm keeping my stuff. Pandemonica approached Lucy and said, I got this can of coffee grinds he made for me, being I'm the one who suggested this, I can bear its loss, and Lucy accepted the item with gratitude. I see, leaves, Lucy mumbled, realizing that the image was actually an overview of a huge area of trees. Let's find Naruto a bit more precisely, she said, tapping the cylinder until it melted and the liquid flew up as the mirror shimmered and waved as the reflection changed into something new. The mirror began to rush past the trees as they all watched miles go by, but Lucy stopped when she saw a huge wall. The hell? Pandemonica, what are we seeing? The queen asked, raising her hand and then made a clutching motion as she twisted it slightly. This is the current world. It's been exactly 2,000 years since we last interacted in the top world. What we are seeing is the Konoha village hidden in the leaves, the drowsy-looking woman declared, glancing over a file she owned. Justice asked, recalling some of the words her beloved spoke when he was with them. That's the language Naruto used, right? The typically exhausted woman nodded. Indeed, it was founded by two ninja clans at war until they made a village, and it grew to be one of the major ones currently. It recently suffered an attack by a demon fox. As the woman handed her the file, Judgment said, "How recent?" 5 years. "That's not recent, that's last week to us," she said. Lucy demanded, "As fascinating as this is, we are looking for our lover. Seek the man named Naruto, the one who was once in hell," as they noticed a young, blonde lad slurping noodles while seated in a food stall. Lucy said, "It's him," her heart pounding, "the same fox-like whiskers on his face and sun-kissed hair, he still wears that orange color." She thought, touching her chin with a tiny fist, that he still had such similarities after all these centuries. She was happy, and her face was the exact expression of love that hit something she hadn't felt in years. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, it's him. The file on him has his soul that was the exact same as ours," the exhausted demon said, revealing to the others, or rather, their huddled presence around her, that was born 5 years ago, during, what on earth? What? Lucy asks her subjects as she breaks out of her reverie. When Lucy's eyebrows darkened and narrowed at the sound, Pandemonica yelled, "His father and mother sealed the demon fox, which is this energy that's called chakra that these people have. That's not the thing, the village treats him like a monster." As Pandemonica approached her to deliver the information, the queen asked, "What was that?" as the black flames surrounding her body swirled frantically as she scowled at the exhausted lady. "Those soon-to-be damn fools don't understand what real demons are," Pandemonica explained, adjusting her glasses as some anger began to build up inside. "It seems that no one knows the fact that his father, Minato Namikaze, was the village leader at the time. Is it really Naruto's father? It seems that the village believes Naruto is an orphan, and some outright believe he is a demon." "Show me what she means." Lucy's flames did not go out, on the contrary, they became darker. All of the girls now had gloomy expressions as they observed the small boy eating and then fleeing away from people, while men yelled with delight while brandishing knives and bottles, perhaps to hurt the child. Baphomet was already preparing to turn the men into goats so she could whip them into shape, while Cerberus thoroughly examined the men so that when they arrived, they would tear them apart by their teeth as painfully and slowly as possible. Crack. "We're going to raze that village to the ground," Molina said, glaring at the television while the bottle she was sipping was now broken into pieces. "No, we're already in heaven's crosshairs for the last time we messed around topside Cerberus," she said deadpan, as the three demons only whistled at the recollection. "But I have an idea," she said as the others began to yell in agreement until they saw the flames around Lucy go out of her. "We're going to make his life better," the queen of all demons said as she raised her hand and the mirror turned white with energy. Lucy crossed her arms beneath her breasts and said, "Our Naruto we loved had a horrible life before he met us. Now we can fix that and also be with him when he is of age." The others appeared perplexed. "I don't mind Dash," the lustful demon said, putting up her hand to offer herself for the fun. Modius pouted for not leaping on a young Naruto's bones after all the other girls yelled, "No," in a humorous manner. Justice questioned, unsure of how the plan would work, "So we're going to just live in that place?" "I believe we should look into the way the world works, unless we make another whole holy war on Earth for like the 3rd time in a row," Pandemonica said, simply adjusting her glasses. The queen gazed at the sight of her kingdom and said, "All right, let's watch over the village a bit and understand what this place is like, then we can make my plan work. Get ready though, it's going to be a long time before we get some fun. Lucy cupped her chin in contemplation, although the idea of simply allowing them to be a part of Naruto's life was grand, but again, heaven will bring a lot of trouble if they don't play it safe. The others appeared content, which has never been achievable before. She snapped her fingers, and the gateway began drawing them into the light. Konoha at night. A 5-year-old kid with spiky blonde hair grinned as he filled his tummy with ramen. It was a happy day because, even though he would be spending another year at that awful orphanage, he could use the money he received from the elderly guy to buy food. Huh? He asked, glancing up at his village's wall. Weird. As the young man continued to make his way back to the house he didn't like. With a savage grin, Judgment remarked, he got a good sense to notice us, while she and the other demons stood atop the wall, watching Naruto the entire time they arrived. Lady Lucy. Lucifer said, a week, we'll learn enough to blend in as adorable orphans that will be his precious childhood friends, with a gloomy smile. Then he noticed some inebriated men and said, oh Cerberus. As Lucy saw it, the dog girl's eyes shone in the pitch-black night. We got it. The screams of men being mauled to death were enough to let the world know that hell had arrived in the elemental nations. Lucy simply raised her hands as they ran towards the targets and said, now, let's start the investigation, girls, to be with our beloved Naruto once more, as she materialized a small wine glass in her hand and spilled it over the edge. And those who would stand in our way would burn in hell earlier than they expected. As she took a brief break in a cafe that she found to be rather pleasant, Lucy grinned and turned the page of the Hell newspaper in her hand. She looked at her cup of green tea and sighed as she added a few sugar cubes and watched them dissolve gradually before stirring the tea with a spoon. As the leader of Hell, she found it hard to be taken seriously when she had a sweet appetite. This tea is so bitter, she said, undermining the demonic and authoritative aura she must constantly maintain. Lucy. The demon leader turned to face her fellow demons approaching her, effortlessly disregarding any who stood in her way. Lucy took out a vintage pocket watch and glanced at the time while nodding. It's that time, isn't it? She thought, seeing how swiftly time had gone by, and then she put the watch aside and gestured to the table when a tiny green circle appeared over it. Hello, the queen said, grinning sweetly at the waitress who had walked over. My friends have just arrived. Would you mind getting them something? Just add it to my check, she said. Baphomet interrupted, saying, no, no. I'll pay, because he didn't want her queen to pay for them all before extracting a gold coin and tossing it to the girl, who looked shocked. And keep the change, sweetie, she said, as the waitress nodded hastily before rushing to the cafe to prepare their orders. We'll be taking all of your currently available sweets, ahem. Oh, and all your coffee beans along with a cup of coffee, Baphomet asked, with Pandemonica interrupting to remind him of her coffee. Justice grinned at what she saw, as the gang gathered around Lucy at the table. Heh, nice illusion barrier, makes them think we're normal people, she said, laughing as Lucy grinned behind her teacup. She turned to Cerberus and asked, so, how is our little lover? Of course, something like this is incredibly simple and easy for me to do, she remarked. Master Naruto is safe and sound, currently eating at the Ichiraka ramen/soup/tasty place, the girls said in unison as they all saluted. Lucy laughed at this and then replied, well, we've been here for a full 2 weeks, and I believe it's been long enough for us to finally advance our plans, don't you agree? Lucy inquired and the others nodded. All right, now, I'll let you all know what I've discovered about the villages and any recent major events first and then Judgment, Pandemonica, and Justice will go next, before we finish with everyone else, agreed? As everyone nodded their heads, Lucy began, very good. Now, I'm not sure what year it is, but recently, something called the Third Great Shinobi War has concluded, judging by the title, and various other bits of information I've discovered. It seems this era revolves around something similar to ancient Japan, with their main forces consisting of assassins, ninja, or shinobi, to be precise. All of the girls scowled when they heard this, since it made them remember how their lover had suffered from that employment before passing away. As they all laughed at the obvious walls surrounding them that didn't make the village distinct, Lucy paused to observe their reactions before continuing, drawing their attention once more. Now, unlike in the past, this is now an acceptable career, and shinobi clans often encourage their children to go down this path unless that clan has another option available. Also, it appears that this era doesn't have major cities, but instead has villages and towns, with certain areas having kingdoms, and, while most villages are minor, there are 5 great villages which stand above all others in terms of power, though all villages are titled as hidden, based on their surroundings, with only the most minor of villages and towns not having a title, she said. Drinking her tea, Lucy cleared her throat while talking. Currently, the village we're in now is called the Village Hidden in the Leaves. Supposedly, this village is the first one to have been founded before the others, and has loads of money and several shinobi clans that all have their own special and unique abilities. Next, it seems the Leaf have a treaty between themselves and the Village Hidden in the Sand, a village in the desert. Recently, however, it seems the Leaf has been taking business from them due to clients sending requests here instead of to the sand. Justice snorted, "That sounds like a time bomb just waiting to go off. I give it a few years before they get fed up and do something about this situation." Which made the others laugh, because they knew that people were self-centered and that it was too easy to predict when one group or individual had too much power and another was backed into a corner. The next major one is the Village Hidden in the Mist, though, while they are normally not the weakest of the main 5 villages, they've recently begun a civil war. No one knows why, but they've recently begun a sort of purging of all those who have bloodlines, she said, ignoring her friend's interruption. According to what she's learned about the abilities in the Mist Village, it seems that either the leader grew fearful of their ninja's potential or grew jealous of these clans' abilities that gave them more power than normal ninjas. The others nodded that they made sense, but they wouldn't place too much weight in them until they and Lucy all knew the true reason for the purge. Next is the Village Hidden in the Clouds. Now, they often have problems with the Leaf, more specifically, trying to steal clan members of powerful bloodlines so that they can have their own, supposedly, one of which was even Naruto's mother, she stated, surprising everyone else. If it weren't for the fact she, and her attempted kidnappers, were already dead, I'd suggest that we go and annihilate those who were involved. Judgment believed that those who had mistreated her beloved's mother still needed to receive the full retribution, so she exclaimed, "There's still the whole village. Can't we just destroy them?" Lucifer said, looking irritated, "High Prosecutor." She then cleared her throat and added, "Maybe later." Lastly, is the Village of Stone. Hey, Strada, stop that snickering, she reprimanded when the childish member couldn't resist giggling out loud while imagining a crude joke. Anyway, they have a rather bad history with Naruto's father because he killed most of them during the war, so they have a grudge against the Leaf and are almost completely hateful of him, which would undoubtedly fall on Naruto as well. However, something is wrong with the recent war, as they had no real reason to attack the Leaf, so why the sudden attack? She could understand causing wanton destruction, but she couldn't understand why Stone started the war. Something about the whole situation seemed strange to her, but just as she was about to think more about the strangeness of the war, the waitress brought their order and drinks. Normally, the quantity they had ordered would have been enough for 20 people, but since they weren't human, this much was normal. Lucy was the queen of rebellion and war when she fell, of course, for reasons that were all her own. Now, those are the major villages, also known as the Big Five, due to them holding the most power, wealth, and resources amongst all the villages. Of course, there are minor villages, such as Grass, Sound, Star, Nade, whatever it's called, Snow, and Waterfall. However, despite being minor, they make up for it by having unique powers, abilities, or even equipment. Unfortunately, while I was only able to learn some of their history here, I was unable to learn enough to call myself an expert. However, I did learn that the people of this era use something called chakra. Apparently, they use some type of spiritual and physical energy within their bodies to naturally form chakra to cast spells, or as they call them, jutsu. As she drank from her flask and poured the most of it into her coffee, Molina muttered, "So, they need to use two separate energies in order to do anything? That's kind of lame. That means that they'd die if they used more than what they have," she said. Lucy replied, "Indeed, though, this partially leads to the next topic, the attack of a demon fox called the Nine-Tails Demon Fox. According to records, this creature is actually a giant mass of sentient chakra, and since chakra is a form of energy, it couldn't be destroyed, so it was instead sealed into our lover. This means that in terms of available power, our lover will have more than anyone alive, especially since his own will continue to grow with him as he gets older and trains." When the girls heard this, they were proud that their boyfriend might wipe out the town entirely if he so desired in this new existence, and much more so in the future. That is all I have to report on the history and power struggles of the villages at this time, Lucy said, taking another drink of her tea. "If I learn more, I'll be sure to share it all with you. For now," she continued, turning to face Pandemonica. "What have you learned about this era's economy?" she asked. "So, from what I've gathered, it appears that the village, like most rural villages, gain their money from their regional leader, which in this case is someone called the Fire Daimyo," said Pandemonica, clearing her throat as she took a sip of her coffee and double-checked her notes. As she mentioned the daimyo, Pandemonium pulled out a chart she'd made, showing the daimyo at the top. Daimyos hold the most power in each region, with only the kage of each region being second in terms of power. Now, most of the time, they'd rather leave the ninjas alone to do their own thing and follow the kage, the leader of the ninja forces. But some grow greedy and can be rather stupid. One example is the Wind Daimyo in the Land of Wind, who's been using Konoha to save money, thus cutting any funding the Sand receive. Also, with the economy being in such a horrible state, many merchants and people in the market industry have used this time to their advantage in order to get their stores up and running with less cost to themselves. Finally, the money they use is called Ryo, and while it does have a different name, it's no different to how money was used in Japan, the caffeine-addicted demon explained to everyone, with Lucy having grown a mischievous smile when she heard about merchants using the economy to their advantage. Pandemonica nodded as she jotted down something in the documents on her clipboard. Lucy then turned to Judgment and asked, "Government? Tell me more about how the merchants used the economy to their advantage." A little later, she continued. The dark-skinned woman, upon hearing this, nodded using Pandemonica's diagram. "So, just as Pandemonica said, every region does indeed have a daimyo along with a kage. Now, each kage is the leader within each of the main 5 villages, with their title changing based on which village they reside in. The one for the leaf is called the Hokage, or Fire Shadow. Now, while it is true that every region and sub-village report to the daimyo, the main 5 villages are slightly different in that each one is based on a dictatorship, with the Hokage having the final word." Judgment next added the terms, advisors, as well as, council, to the chart right next to kage, before proceeding. "So, while each of the main 5 are indeed dictatorships, each of the Kage is allowed to assign advisors and even a council in order to assist them in running the village, whether it's from organizing markets, to keeping track of supplies and shipments with the Kage holding the final word. This is mainly due to each of the big 5 villages being ninja villages, with them allowing civilians to join and take part in their economy. She then frowned as she thought about what she found out with the Leaf's current Kage, something all the girls noticed before judgment continued. However, based on everything I've learned about the Leaf, it seems that the current Hokage has lost his backbone and power. While it's normal for the clan heads to be allowed to voice their own opinions and weigh in on major decisions, the current Hokage allows the civilian merchants to completely walk all over him, voicing their own opinions, and oftentimes, overturning decisions that should be made by the Hokage. Personally, I don't think the current Hokage is fit to lead anymore, especially since he was supposed to have retired, but was forced to take back the mantle of Kage after his successor, our lover's father, passed away when he sealed away the demon fox. However, it seems as though the village is still in good condition, at least in terms of overall productivity, so I will wait before passing judgment. For now, I'll pass it over to Justice. This caused her cheerful predecessor to grin as she started her account. From what I've seen, their military is very similar to what we know, despite being ninjas, as they have a rank system that goes Genin, then Chunin, Jonin, and then the Hokage, with certain exceptions in between. The Genin are generally the rookies and foot soldiers, with them being fresh recruits who are then assigned into squads of 4, with it consisting of 3 Genin, and 1 Jonin. The Chunin are next, and they usually aren't that impressive. Just think of them as genin who've gained some experience and improved their skills a bit. Now, the real power comes from them. Justice then raised his hand to get them to look at a man with silver hair who was leaping over them. The Jonin, basically the veterans who've proven they have the skills, experience, and jutsu arsenal, are the main force behind each village's military strength, aside from the Kage. Not only that, but it seems that every year, when a class of prospective genin graduates from the academy, a group of jonin are selected to become potential teachers and leaders for each squad formed. Justice then raised her arms and leaned back. Now, I say, prospective, because while they are assigned to a jonin teacher, each squad then has to take a second, secret test that can be decided by the jonin. If they pass the jonin's test, they succeed in becoming genin. If not, they're then sent back to the academy or are told to completely drop being ninja altogether. Now, it's actually not too bad of a test, since places like the Mist actually make it a requirement where prospective genin have to kill their entire class in order to graduate. This place is so backwoods that the years before our Naruto arrived seem more like that of advanced technology, and we used to use fire and brimstone for Christ's sake. Lucy hummed to herself as she leaned back and processed all of this information after Justice had finished her report. Moving on, Baphomet, have you and the others been able to gather enough funds? Lucy said, letting out a frustrated sigh before turning to face Baphomet. Baphomet smiled proudly at being in the spotlight, saying, "We do indeed, my queen," before shrieking as she spotted the adorable pastries that had been delivered to their table. The goat lover took up a stick of dango and said, "Oh, what cute food! Ah, such vibrant colors." She took a chocolate chip muffin for herself and groaned, "Baphomet, please stay focused." "My bad." Baphomet agreed, breaking off her admiration for the adorable candies at this point. Clearing her throat, Baphomet spoke with a slightly mania across her face. "Using the lazy and rich people, we asked them if they could give us some of the old businesses they don't really want anymore, so now, they've signed over the deeds to various buildings and businesses for us to use in order to fix up, change, and put to work acquiring funds. Luckily, we also managed to get a Kickstarter from those very same people." As she started to drink her 6th cup of coffee, Pandemonica nodded in agreement. In fact, And with a little assistance from Molina, Modius, and Strada, we were able to completely transform those dilapidated stores and buildings into proper stores to begin making profit, so, should anything happen to those patrons later on, we now have a steady flow of money through these stores now being our own, she said, grinning at the sweetness of her coffee. Not bad, although, it's nothing compared to his own brew, she said, her eyes softening as she recalled their lover. Although technically they didn't need to eat or drink, none of them wanted to live that way, especially when there were so many delectable sweets for them all to eat and enjoy with their lover. Lucy said, well, before we continue this topic, let's at least finish our meal, as the others agreed that they should finish the food. The cuisine, lifestyle, and habits of the people were so dissimilar from those of previous eras that the current world was strange. Now that we've had our fill, Cerberus, is there anything concerning Naruto that we need to address? Lucy asked as they resumed their conference after finishing their meal, saving only a few snacks for later. As you know, the left sister began, Master has been treated poorly because he's the container of that wild chakra, the middle sister added, this has made most people think it's a demon and, by extension, Master too, and the right sister concluded. The girls nodded quickly, eager to discuss their beloved master. Before the middle one said, not only that, the left added, some also throw our Lord out from their stores, and the right took over, saying, though we can't harm them otherwise it would look suspicious on Master if the person who kicked him out was suddenly killed/murdered/died. The three sisters snarled at that thought, and the others scowled as well. They like to call us demons evil, but then they prove that it's actually humans who are the real evil ones. After all, it's easier to call yourself a hero and torture a child than to help and accept that they're an innocent child, Justice said, leaning back in her chair and glaring at the ceiling. The typically lustful demon whispered gently, it would make sense that they would naturally harbor hate for the fox within our young love, as many of their loved ones were apparently killed during the attack. So that gives them the right to treat him like this. Molina said, clearly unimpressed by her explanation. As she gently shook her head, Modius said, I didn't say that. I just mean that we all know a small part of that pain. We all hated Beale for centuries until we finally calmed down. Love when ripped away from someone is a powerful reason to hate and to cling on to that hate, even if it's directed at the wrong person. She reminded them, making them look down in shame because they believed they were superior to humans but ignored the fact that they had similar reactions. That being said, we just need to show and give him our love, and the best way to do that as Cerberus' final sister began, we killed the store owners, the center one picked up, the drunks, and the sister on the right added, and any normal people who openly said they hated Naruto, Master, honey. The group chuckled at the absurdity of what their leader had said. They concluded as a group. While the leader has been investigating our kills, the middle one added, Lucy, Queen Lulu will not find any evidence, the left one added. The right sister started, we also heard, the middle one added, that Master is going to get kicked out of that orphanage soon, the left one picked up, because many of the children copy the caretaker's hate towards him, and then all three spoke simultaneously, they may not bully him, and we would kill them for treating Naruto, Master, honey like an outcast but Lucy smiled before noticing the sisters wriggling in their seats and their leader's eyes. Children are off limits, judgment cautioned the trio, who gave her a fierce look. The three of them said, we know, simultaneously, before the left sister added, but we're talking about the caretakers. The middle sister went on, if they die, the other kids would have a hard time surviving on their own, and the right sister added, even if they somehow survive and learn to take care of themselves, before the left sister added, Naruto would eventually figure out that we were the reason behind their suffering, and all three concluded, and he'd be mad/furious/unhappy. Judgment promptly stood up at this point. So we should let our king continue to suffer at their hands. You might be his loyal canines, but I was taken in by him and I won't let him suffer anymore. She cried, extending her claws in a menacing manner as they gleamed at the three girls, whose teeth began to sharpen to points as they snarled and growled at Judgment. As they attempted to calm their friend's antagonistic tendencies, Justice and Pandemonica cried out, Judgment/Cerberus. But then they sensed a huge presence and turned to see Lucy standing with a disappointed expression after finishing her tea. Enough, you all stay here, I'll be going for a walk to clear my head. She sighed, losing her composure. She left the others, realizing that pulling Naruto away was a rash decision, but what solution did they have? The village's animosity couldn't be instantly eliminated by magic. It's easy to make people believe something doesn't exist, but attempting to forcefully remove an entire emotion could lead to a lot of issues and even attract the angels. An entire village that radiated magic and harbored no hatred would be the equivalent of them hanging a giant sign that read, "Here we are. Come fuck us up and send us back to hell." Angels wouldn't have looked into illusion spells or small memory wipes because they know that their kind is known to mess with humanity, which is why this level of magic is normal. Lucy would have been much more concerned about how much magic she was using and how many spells she had cast. Lucy whispered, "Damn it, now where am I?" as she snapped out of her reverie and looked around, realizing that she had no idea where she was. She could see a little river nearby, but she still didn't know if she was still in the hamlet. "See ya, Naruto." Lucy's head snapped in the direction of a trio of children leaving a nearby playground. One of them had a wild appearance and red cheeks, and his savage smile reminded her of her own canine ally. Another appeared to be a tired or lazy child with his hair tied up in a way that reminded her of some sort of fruit. Finally, the last one was a little overweight. Eep, she hurriedly hid behind a tree when the boy glanced at her. What on earth was that? When she considered his weight, he seemed to sense it, scary. She sighed with satisfaction as she saw them leave, but her eyes darkened when she noticed a young Naruto gazing down and realizing that he was by himself. Gazing back, she realized that he had given up on finding her. "My love," she cried softly, being careful not to be noticed, as she watched him sit on the swing set. "No more," Lucy confidently exclaimed before approaching Naruto and attempting to slow her heartbeat. However, one of those acts was not working well. Although it never changed the fact that most people still treat him horribly and that most parents tell their children not to play with him, Naruto sighed as his friends departed, sad that he would once again be alone but at least glad that they would play with him every day after they finished their day at the academy. "I wish I wasn't always alone," he murmured, wrapping his hands around the swing's chains. He was upset and depressed about how unfair it was that he didn't have parents and was mistreated for some reason. "Excuse me." Naruto turned his head when he heard a woman's voice and saw that she was standing close by, bending slightly over him and giving him a troubled look. She inquired, "Are you all right?" When Naruto heard the inquiry, he was taken aback that the woman was concerned about him and did not regard him with contempt and disgust. When he realized this, his eyes started to water and tears started to fall. "Are you okay?" she said, her voice more worried than before, placing a hand on his cheek and saying, "You're crying." "Yeah, I'm fine, I'm just really happy because you're the first person to worry about me," Naruto remarked, sniffing as he felt his cheeks and realizing she was correct as he started to wipe his eyes. With real amazement at the lack of attention Naruto has received over the years, Lucy questioned, "Really? Does no one else worry about you?" "No, most people just tell their kids to stay away from me and look at me like I did something terrible," Naruto remarked, shaking his head. Lucy began, "Well, that's not very nice, is it?" "It isn't, so, what's your name?" "I'm Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said, laughing and shaking his head. "Lucy, my name is Lucy and it's nice to meet you, Naruto," said Lucy. Naruto returned the greeting with a smile that made Lucy's heart skip a beat. "It's nice to meet you too," he said. "So, would you like to play with me or do you have to go too?" "Sure," she smiled and said, "Come on, we've got a few more hours at least." After that, Naruto and Lucifer exulted as they went to the playground and started playing. They used the swings, played tag, and even used a ball that one of the kids from earlier in the day had forgotten. Nevertheless, throughout the entire activity, Naruto failed to notice Lucy's sad expression. "Hey, why hasn't anyone come to pick you up?" Lucy pushed Naruto as it became late and the sun was starting to set. The two had decided to spend the remainder of the day on the swings. "I'm an orphan, so I don't have anyone to come pick me up. I also don't have a home, as I live in the orphanage, but I don't like it there. The matron doesn't treat me nicely and doesn't let me play with the other kids or let me come out when adults are looking to adopt," Naruto said, giving her a fleeting sad glance before turning back to face the sun. With a smile on his face and his golden hair accentuated by the setting light behind him, Naruto continued, "But despite everything, I know that everything will turn out right for me, I can feel it," he remarked. When Lucy heard this, she was devastated by Naruto's anguish and suffering. She detested how this community treats him so poorly and how Naruto always picks up the pieces of himself, refusing to let them alter him. When Lucy slowly stopped the swing, Naruto looked her in the eyes and asked, "Would you ever want to leave?" They stared at each other for a while without saying anything as Lucy allowed her question to sink in and Naruto considered it while the sun was finally setting and the wind was blowing lightly through the area. "If you wanted, I can take you away from here, my friends, and I would take care of you and you'd never have to feel sad, or alone, and you could be happy all you wanted," Lucy stated, hoping Naruto would accept her offer so she could remove him from this terrible village. "No," Naruto answered, shaking his head to her astonishment. "Thank you, but I can't. I made a promise to myself that I would get people here to see me for who I am by becoming the Hokage of this village and protecting everyone," he said, smiling softly. At the same moment that Naruto told her this, Lucy noticed a shadow behind him of a man she had met years prior after he had voluntarily traveled to her world in hell. Lucy's eyes widened as she gazed at Naruto, amazed at his determination to thrive and prosper in a place that would do nothing but prevent him from doing so while scorning him the entire time. As she shouted, "You're so cute," and gave Naruto a tight hug, she grinned, knowing that the person she loved was inside him, even if he wasn't aware of it. Naruto pouted as the fallen angel pinched his cheek, then she halted and whispered, "Tell you what, let's make a deal." "A deal?" Naruto asked again, tilting his head as he gave her a questioning glance. Lucy raised her eyebrows and replied, "That's right. You see, I'm going to be living in this village from now on, and since I'll be living here, I'm going to be keeping an eye on your progress. If you can impress me, I'll get you some of those dumplings covered in syrup." "Dango!" Naruto exclaimed, gazing at her with anticipation at the prospect of a delicious surprise. She grinned and continued, "That's right, and not only that, I'll give you a big surprise as well," to which Naruto returned the smile. Naruto cried out with delight, "Cool. I can't wait to make you proud, Lucy Ne-chan. Though she knew she would have to prevent Modius from hearing this name for as long as possible because she was certain that he would find a way to pervert or corrupt such an innocent name, Lucy couldn't help but blush when she heard that Naruto had just called her big sister, thanks to some lessons she had learned about the various meanings some words have in this world. Later at night, when the other girls noticed Lucy approaching them after she had vanished hours earlier, Molina said, "It's about time. Have you decided on what we're going to be doing?" "I have, and for now, we'll be staying as I met with Darling earlier, and it seems that he does not wish to leave this place," Lucy replied, grinning and nodding her head. The other girls were shocked that their queen had met their beloved, and even more so that he was unwilling to leave this pathetic village. However, they became irritated that Lucy had met him before them and that she had not made a greater effort to persuade him to leave. With a deadpan expression, Strada asked, "Why didn't you try harder to get him to leave? Or we could have even taken him with us to hell, and not in the way that it would normally sound, since most people thought it sounded awful." Lucy said, shaking her head, "Because, that wouldn't be us trusting him. He wants to stay here and prove to every one of these poor, ignorant souls that they were wrong to treat him the way they do now. Don't you remember that our darling did the very same thing when he went to heaven, despite having slaughtered thousands, all because he believed that he could prove himself?" Lucy yelled at the girls, causing them to all recoil as they realized what she was referring to. Lucy persuaded them to agree by saying, "We cannot stop him from achieving his goal, nor do we have the right to take him away just because it eases our minds. We're staying by his side and supporting him." But then she observed something, Strada. When the others turned to face their resident smoker, they noticed that she was standing next to a building, staring at their leader like a deer in headlights, with a lit match poised to touch the wall. Lucy asked, her smile sickeningly sweet, "What do you think you're doing?" Before answering, Strada glanced at Lucy and the match she was holding. I was just gonna release some stress. Maybe cause a case or two of arson," she said. Lucy looked at Strada and said, "No arson, we're trying not to draw attention to ourselves, at least not any more than we will have when we take in Darling," while sighing and shaking her head simultaneously. As she extinguished the light before everyone knew what their queen had just spoken, the resident smoker growled, "Damn it, fine. Wait, we're doing what now? You heard me, once we settle in and get everything we need, like a house, maybe some jobs, and so on, we'll be taking Darling in, kind of like adopting him," the queen said, nodding while crossing her arms. With her hands on her hips and her sunglasses slightly flashing, Justice grinned and said, "So we're going to adopt him, huh? Dibs on being the fun aunt." Modius yelled at the universal dibs rule, "Damn it. Then I'll be dash." Lucy crossed her arms and yelled, "No. We're just taking him in, not adopting him." All of the girls halted their discussions about their potential roles in Naruto's life at this point and turned to face their leader for clarification. Lucy tells the girls, "If we adopt him, we'd be putting ourselves in a position that makes it hard for us to later look at us as lovers. I don't want to abuse him wanting a mother or sister just to make it easier for us," which makes them realize that they hadn't considered it that way. "Alright, so, what exactly will we be doing?" Baphomet asked after clearing her mouth. Lucy crossed her arms and smiled lightly, "Aside from changing our plans and moving them up a bit, we'll need to cast a large spell. However, this will be unlike any spell we've cast, and since a few of you don't have larger reserves, this will cause most of us to be unable to use magic for quite a long time, so before we do anything, I need to know, are all of you in?" When the others heard this, they turned to Lucy, shocked by what she was implying, especially because magic was a significant part of their life. After a moment of staring at one another, they turned back to their leader with a fierce expression on their faces as Baphomet questioned, "What do you need us to do?" "All right, Pandemonica, I want you to start looking into any businesses that are failing or shady and take them, those will be our sources of income," Lucy remarked with a smile after thanking the girls. Pandemonica raised her glasses as she nodded and replied, "I'm way ahead of you, my queen. Earlier today, before we all gathered to give our reports, I was investigating certain shops and businesses and it turns out, a lot of them were doing very shady deals, embezzling money, or are just on the edge of going under. Using this information, I've had the ones embezzling money and performing shady deals give sign over their businesses to me while I used the money from those businesses to buy the ones that were going under." Lucy smiled as she said, "Excellent. Keep up the good work managing those businesses, as we'll need a source of income. Next, we'll need a house, furniture, and everything. Baphomet, judgment, and justice, can I leave this to you?" "No worries, I'll handle finding the perfect house and decorating it, Your Majesty," Baphomet remarked with a smile and a nod. "And we will make sure that we aren't cheated or scammed, my lady," said Judgment as he and Justice took the stage. "We'll also make sure Baphomet doesn't go too goat crazy with the designs," Justice grinned, and although Baphomet pouted, he understood. They worked through half the night before finally finishing all the preparations, at which point Lucy had everyone use as much magic as they could to power the largest spell any of them had seen. The group of demons then continued discussing what they all needed to do and have accomplished before they went ahead and cast the spell their queen had planned so that all of them could blend in without suspicion. Konoha Orphanage, the next morning, when the elderly caretaker yelled, "Hey brat, wake up. We've got a guest coming." Naruto jumped to his feet. Naruto went downstairs after getting clothed and out of his hard, unpleasant bed to find a group of small children standing with an elderly man who had silver hair that defied gravity. When Naruto got downstairs, he noticed a tall, muscular man with short, slick-back black hair, round sunglasses, and a red shirt and black pants with some expensive shoes. Two girls were peeking out from behind the man, staring at him. "Hello, I'm Frank Dose, and you must be Naruto," the man remarked, squatting down as he glanced at Naruto. A little perplexed as to who this individual was, Naruto questioned, "That's right, how do you know my name?" "My daughter, Lucy, told me about you and how you didn't have any parents," Frank remarked, gesturing to one of the girls. After hearing the name, Naruto remarked, "Weren't you a grown-up yesterday?" while casting an odd glance at the girl being named. Lucy laughed when she heard the query and said, "That's silly, how could I possibly be a grown-up? Don't tell me you thought I was a grown-up this whole time." The girl in question had red eyes, long, white hair, and pale skin. She was dressed in a red shirt, black skirt, and sandals. "I guess I must have been more tired than I thought yesterday from playing with my friends," Naruto muttered, blushing and massaging the back of his head. Lucy laughed, then turned to face the other girl and pulled her aside so Naruto could have a good look at her. The girl had red eyes, white hair, and pale skin like Lucy, but she appeared exhausted because she was wearing a red long-sleeve shirt and black pants with sandals. She also wore round glasses and her hair was curled all over the place instead of straight like Lucy's. Saying, "Hello, it's nice to meet you," Naruto grinned. The girl gave him a little smile and yawned, "Hello, I'm Pandemonica," even if her eyes were sleepy. The girls returned Naruto's smile, and then they heard laughter and turned to find Frank grinning at them. "Well, it looks to me that you three are getting along just fine," he said. Frank remarked, "So, Naruto, what do you say about me adopting you?" after the three of them flushed. Naruto started crying at this point because he was stunned and surprised that someone genuinely wanted to adopt him. He immediately wiped his face before smiling at Frank and exclaiming, "Yes. Please adopt me." After that, Frank got up and started massaging Naruto's head while Lucy and Pandemonica embraced him. The four of them then departed the orphanage with plans to buy Naruto new clothes and food for everyone to eat. That night, after the four of them left the orphanage, they purchased Naruto a lot of new clothes and a ton of food to eat when they got home. At first, Naruto didn't understand why they had bought so much food, but after they arrived home, he realized why. When Naruto arrived at the house, he noticed that there were many other girls there. Since most of them had the same white hair, pale skin, and red eyes, he assumed that all of the girls were sisters. However, when he questioned Lucy, she informed him that, with the exception of the two grumps and the group of three who were standing shoulder to shoulder with one another, the other girls simply shared the same trait because they were all from the same clan. Naruto was shocked to hear this, but he couldn't help but gaze at them all with wonder and a hint of sadness because, despite the fact that none of them had parents like him, they all had each other because Lucy and Pandemonica had revealed to him that Frank was also their adoptive father, while he was all by himself. Lucy must have sensed his sadness because she took hold of his hand, jolting him out of his reverie, and pulled him to the other girls, who all grinned, hugged him, and said hello in other ways. He was introduced to each of them, and they were all more than delighted to have him. He liked the sisters, even though they preferred to be called Cerberus, presumably because they enjoyed sticking together so much. Modius was pleasant, but something about the way she looked at him made him shiver. Justice was entertaining, she was laid back, and he could tell he would enjoy pulling practical jokes on her. Judgment appeared to be a little strict, but Naruto could tell that she was nice underneath it all. Strada and Molina were pleasant, and he could tell that despite their grumpiness, they didn't let it affect how they treated others. Lastly, there was Baffet, who was really nice, but Naruto noticed that she seemed to have an odd obsession with goats. Following introductions, Naruto sat next to Lucy and Pandemonica as they all ate together before having to end the evening. Naruto grinned as he walked into his new room, which had air conditioning, plenty of space, and a big, brand new bed that was incredibly soft. He jumped on the bed right away because he loved how soft it was, and as he felt the bed's softness, he started to close his eyes, ready to go to sleep in his new house with his new family. Knock, knock, but before he could doze off, he heard someone tapping on his door. He sat up to find Lucy there. "Lucy, are you okay?" he asked. Can I sleep with you?" "I had a nightmare," the young woman said, looking down without saying anything. "Come on, it's okay, I have nightmares too sometimes and I'd like to have someone here with me," Naruto replied, stepping slightly over and patting the bed. Lucy grinned at this point and hurried over to join him in bed. Naruto felt her cuddling up against him as he grinned. He was just getting settled when he heard footsteps coming to his door and turned to see Modius there. As Naruto nodded, she responded, "Can I join too?" Bad dreams. Following Modius, each of the other girls approached his room individually and asked if they could sleep with him because they all had nightmares, and Naruto refused to deny any of them because he loved feeling his new family around him and knowing that he was no longer alone or in that awful orphanage. When Naruto looked, he saw Lucy holding his left arm, Baphomet sleeping quietly on his chest, Strada and Molina sprawled out beside his feet, Justice snoring loudly, and Judgment sleeping silently on top of Justice, Modius holding his body, the Cerberus triplets holding his legs, one between the other two, and Pandemonica holding his right arm while grinning gently. After noticing all of this, Naruto grinned and muttered, "Thank you," before drifting off to sleep. He was relieved to have at last found a family that wanted him and made him feel like he belonged. He was about to fall asleep when Lucy and the others opened their eyes, looked at Naruto, and then hugged him closer as they all fell asleep, except for Lucy, who remained awake, glanced at the group, then grinned at Naruto before settling back down and holding his arm a little tighter than before. Lucy said, "I love you, my king," and then she kissed his cheek as she and the others went to sleep. The following morning, they all agreed that they had finally slept well again for the first time in a long time. When Naruto opened his eyes, he was on a big bed and felt completely rejuvenated. He sat up and glanced around, noticing a room he had never been in before, and he noticed that he was dressed in new clothes. When Naruto looked around, he discovered that he was in a room he was unfamiliar with. "Where am I?" he asked himself. "And these clothes?" A voice yelled out, "Good morning," grabbing his attention. Unsure of how to engage with his new family, Naruto turned to the door and saw Lucy, remembering at last that she was his new sister. He scratched the back of his head and said, "Good morning," sitting up in bed. "Do you need me to help with anything?" Lucy said, "Dad is making breakfast and the others already have everything else covered, so you just need to worry about getting dressed and then coming out to eat," as she asked, giggling a little before realizing he was serious. "Oh, no, you don't need to worry about that," Lucy said, grabbing Naruto a fresh pair of shorts and a shirt and throwing them to him. The Queen of Hell thought, despite all that he's been through, at least he still has some proper growth. A little on the small side and that's to be expected, but a proper diet and some sleep will fix that, remembering how she loved Naruto when he was taller than her so that he could sweep her off her feet and pin her in bed with ease. Lucy smiled at him and waved as he got up and went to the bathroom to change. But then he closed the door after he looked back. When Naruto had finished dressing, Lucy pulled him downstairs to find Pandemonica yawning and grousing softly in her pajamas while rubbing her eye. "Morning," she moaned. The only reason she was permitted to skip work yesterday night was because it was a significant event for all the girls, but even with her sleep from the previous night, she still had to work Hell's customer service as usual, severely depriving her of well-earned sleep. However, after observing the miserable, sleep-deprived woman, Lucy questioned whether she need to start designating days when Pandemonica is exempt from work so that she can receive some much-needed rest. Lucy remarked, "Sounds like someone had a rough night." Pandemonica sighed irritably, "Shut up." But Lucy ignored her, knowing that Pandemonica's lack of sleep was the primary reason for her behavior and that the last time she had attempted to address Pandemonica's attitude. "You okay?" Naruto said, turning to face the exhausted girl who flushed at his anxious demeanor. "Need me to help you wake up?" Lucy rubbed her but abruptly, experiencing phantom aches from the previous time she had attempted to rectify Pandemonica's attitude. Yeah, she wasn't going to let that happen. Missing Naruto's perplexed expression when he heard the term espresso, she whispered softly, "Not unless you can brew an espresso, but the thought is nice." "Morning son," the father said, lifting his head to turn it slightly. "You don't mind me calling you that, kid?" The two yawned into the kitchen and followed the exhausted girl to watch Frank turning pancakes into the air, then dropping small chocolate chunks in the middle and curling them. "No, it's okay." "Frank-san," Naruto muttered, shaking his head, as the man bowed his head and smiled coolly. As he flipped more into the air, he continued, "I hope you enjoy pancakes. Girls, please come in here. Breakfast is ready unless you want the sisters to steal the pancakes again." The other girls responded, "All right, alright, we're coming, as they hurried downstairs, colliding with one another, and falling down the final flight of stairs, with only the triplets landing safely on top of the others while they chuckled. "Hey," Frank said to the girls, causing them to look up, "it doesn't mean we shouldn't be careful just because we're all family. Now, everyone, please take your seats, and Naruto will go next to Modius and Lucy." "Extra strawberries and whipped cream for Modius," Frank stated as he approached and started serving everyone once Naruto and the other girls had taken their seats. Modius grinned broadly and said, "You're the best," before she began to eat. Justice remarked, "Chocolate for me and Judge," as Frank set out several pancakes with chocolate syrup dripping over them. They dug in with gleeful expressions. "Any requests, kiddo?" Frank asked Naruto after all the girls had finished eating and received their food. "Give him chocolate and strawberries," Strada said, looking up from her dish as the man nodded and added the toppings to Naruto's meal. With an embarrassed giggle, Naruto said, Thanks, I think." What was your name again?" "Her name is Strada, Zodiarada," Lucy added with a sly smile, sounding out Strada's name to assist him understand how it is pronounced. Naruto grinned at Strada and said, "Okay, well thanks Strada, really." While the others all laughed at the spectacle, Strada turned away with a flush. However, as Pandemonica took a sip of coffee and inquired, "Are you okay, Naruto?" they saw that Naruto appeared a little uneasy. "Why yeah, just trying to remember all of your names," Naruto said, shaking his head. Lucy laughed and said, "You're such a sweet boy," in response to the boy's anxious demeanor. "How about you give each of us a nickname? That way it'll be easier for you to remember," Lucy said. The girl smiled slightly at Naruto's stare as he nodded and looked around, saying, "My name is Pandemonica, I like coffee," religiously, while the other girls giggled. "And having enough sleep," she added. "Pandemonica." Naruto muttered, trying to come up with a moniker for her. "I'll call you Monica," he said, since the girl appeared to enjoy it enough to maintain her smile. She added, "Although I would like to make you a Mo-dash, it's good enough." With a particular glitter in her eyes. In an attempt to urge the girl to be more composed in front of their young lover, Justice muttered, "Whoa ho ho," hiding her lips with a frightened expression. "That's enough of the muddy water for you, ya sadist," she whispered. Pandemonica sulked and muttered, "Fine," before Justice removed her hand from her face. She was staring at Justice with a very dry expression. Modius raised her hand in excitement and said, "Oh. Do me. Ow." She pouted and cringed as Judgment slapped the back of her head, saying, "Not what I meant." Justice deadpanned, phrasing. Disregarding Justice, Modius began, "My name is Modius and I love SE-," before hesitating to glance over Naruto's shoulder and see Lucy and Judgment glaring menacingly. She then slowly proceeded, "Say, wing." Without expressing what she had initially planned, and romance books, she grinned at Naruto and remarked, "Well, Modius is the easiest to remember." He soon turned to find the three crazy females biting their pancakes and shaking their heads hilariously. Naruto murmured, his eyes wide. Since they were acting like dogs, he wasn't sure how to react to this circumstance. The females all said at once, "She's Cerberus / no she is / wait, I thought I was," and then they all laughed quietly, we're all Cerberus. Naruto turned to face Lucy, who shook her head and just smiled teasingly. "I guess I'll just call you that," he muttered, and the females all nodded joyfully, practically whining like puppies. The elder man took his pancakes and left, saying, "As funny as this is, eat up kid, you can talk more after eating," Frank said. Thanks," Naruto said, blinking before glancing at his stack. With the strawberries and whipped cream on top, it looked nice, but it also made his stomach grumble and caused him to swallow the knot in his throat. The father shouted, "Lu, Pan, later today, you're helping me tidy up my office," to a resounding yes. In response, Naruto took a piece of the unusual dessert and grinned at how delicious it was. As the girls gazed at him, he quickly devoured the remaining portion. He was at a new house with a new family and could eat something other than ramen, so he didn't mind that people stared at him. It was nice to be in a place where no one called him a demon or scowled at him for attempting to eat. With a laugh, she said, "Hey cutie, my name is Justice. You can call me that or Hachi. Or just Jus," she said. "Justice," Naruto said as gulping down his food. She winked and lowered her sunglasses to reveal Naruto's colorless eyes. "Yeah, you got it," she replied, then put them back on as she saw his concentrated gaze. "My eyes, she stammered, turning to Lucy, who nodded understandably to continue. "Yeah, I'm blind, dude," she muttered. "Is she okay?" Naruto said, his eyes widening as he turned to face Lucy. Justice smiled shyly at his nice words, concerned about her. For once, Lucy smiled at her old friend and waved off, saying, "It's okay, she's accustomed to it by now. She's been dealing with it for the majority of her life, so it's nothing to worry about." He remarked, "Oh, so she wasn't born blind," as Lucy arched an eyebrow. When Lucy thought about that woman, she trailed off, "No, Justice's condition is from an accident. Well, it's not like I really care about it anymore, besides, I've already adjusted, oop," Justice said, chuckling sheepishly as she waved the entire conversation away. She grabbed Judgment's glass of milk before it spilled and said, "So I'm not helpless anymore, careful 20, rubbing the girl's head, who appeared visibly embarrassed by the gesture. Naruto nodded in comprehension and remarked, "I see. I suppose I shouldn't be too concerned then." As she drained her silver flask, Molina said sarcastically, "Oh, the name's Molina, but you can call me Mal if you want to," saying, "You can, but it's not needed," as she began pouring the contents into a coffee mug. "TCH, it's not like we're easily breakable," she muttered. Naruto nodded, saying, "Mal-chan, okay then." Naruto said, "What are you adding to your mug?" as Molina appeared startled and then abruptly withdrew it. Ignoring Molina, Strada laughed and flicked her away, saying, "It's her, silly juice." Naruto tilted his head in confusion and asked, "How does it make her silly?" "Silly, juice?" Before aiming a knife at her twin, which was destroyed by the pancake fragments still on it, she yelled, "It's not silly juice. It's necessary juice, smog head." "Yeah, sure, you can call it that, liver killer." Strada laughed and rolled her eyes. Molina glared at her pancakes and yelled, "Oral whore." Frank scowled and poked a thumb at Naruto, saying, "Hey, kid here." Strada grinned and said, "Not," as the twins muttered, "Sorry." As they ate, Naruto became more at ease with their presence than he had been before. When the majority of the girls had finished eating, he turned to see the triplets gazing him expectantly on his left before realizing there were still some pancakes on his plate. Naruto held out the plate and asked, "Do you want some?" The girls' eyes lit up with actual stars as they all nodded in unison. As Justice snickered, they all exclaimed, "Toss them, please." Naruto turned to face her and gave her the thumbs up. The former high prosecutor said, "Do it, dude, it's their thing, I promise," while observing Naruto throw the leftover food into the air. The middle exclaimed, "Chomp. OOTET," as the other two tackled her, causing the three to viciously tug on the meal, which amazingly didn't split apart but instead appeared to stretch. As he watched the sisters engage in a hilarious dust war over his pancakes, Naruto glanced at Justice incredulously and asked, "Wow, does this happen all the time?" As Lucy scowled at her from a distance, Justice shrugged her shoulders and replied, "Yep, you'll get used to it after a while. But, I'll give them a pass, it's not like they ate another guy," the woman added. As she and Pandemonica prepared to tidy up their father's office, the leader of Hell ordered, "Justice, Strada, go get groceries for dinner. And Naruto, if you want to go with them, it'll be okay since you can help choose food," she said. Sure, I don't mind," Naruto blinked, startled by the unexpected task, but he didn't protest because it wasn't hard or problematic. Shortly after, he left the house with Lucy giving him enough Rio to feed nearly 2 families before giving Justice an even bigger wad of bills. He looked at the blind girl in disbelief and asked, "Does she normally give you that much for food?" Justice smirked at the tone of surprise. Justice joked, Yup, we eat a lot, trust me, gluttony is almost a requirement in this household," as she and Strada followed Naruto outside. "I mean the 3 guard dogs are enough to eat outta, what's the equivalent to a black hole in this era," she said to herself, aware that some of her typical slang and expressions weren't applicable. He whispered to himself, "Just that much money is worth. Wow, that's a lot of ramen bowls just thinking about it." Strada inquired, "Is that all you ever eat?" Naruto scratched the back of his head shyly and said, Yeah." Justice put her arm over his neck and exclaimed, "Man, we need to get you a nice rare steak. Nice amount of pink in the middle." Strada laughed and said, "Soft and wet, gosh, I want to eat out now." "Don't you mean you want to eat out?" Naruto asked, and the females burst out laughing at it. Meanwhile, Lucy deadpanned as she watched the two depart, glancing out the second-story window and saying, "I am going to whip Strada when she gets back." Although Lucy possessed raw magic power, if that were taken away, she would only be as strong as their weakest member, Molina. In addition, Justice had eons of experience fighting blind and had only ever been defeated by specific demons in hell, but that had only ever been momentary before Justice returned stronger. She only wished Naruto would get along with those two, but she was concerned about the people in this town and their cunning and plots. As Frank sat in a big leather chair and Pandemonica stood on a stool to look over his head, she asked, "Mind helping me, or do you need a room with Naruto's photos to help you end your fantasy faster?" "Bloody hell," Pandemonica gritted her teeth, "I told you we needed to adjust the magical output," she said. Frank glowed briefly before his appearance changed to that of a stone version of himself. Lucy laughs at the idea, asking, "With what?" "More magic," before raising her arms to her breast and soaring downward. "Need I remind you, we're like this because you overtaxed our powers," she added. As Lucy approached, Pandemonica said, "Says the idiot who told me to get it right. Now make yourself useful and hand me that demon wrench," she demanded, and Lucy complied, passing the young girl a red and black wrench-like tool and watching as she gently smacked it on Frank's head to pop his skull. "Let's see," Pandemonica said. Lucy questioned, "Anything bad?" as Pandemonica shook her head. "Unless you want to give it more of a boost," the most intelligent person in the inner circle asked. Like I said, we didn't give it enough power, so I'm redistributing his defensive protocols for more basic functionality. And risk my ass being in diapers? No, thank you, she exclaimed, detesting the fact that this was happening because of her lack of magical ability. Many devils, including themselves, believed that sin and power made them appear to be the ideal woman. The more power they possessed, the more people viewed them as goddesses, well, demonic goddesses. For this reason, now that they had lost a significant amount of their power, they were now brats. Using such a large and intricate spell took away almost all of their power, transforming them from beautiful women to cute little girls who appeared to be completely innocent. Well, she did, at least. As she was working on Frank's operating systems, Pandemonica added, "I know you just insulted us, Your Highness." A little childish, but perfectly appropriate for her current form, Lucy stuck her tongue out at her at that moment. Although she could theoretically go back to hell and instantly regain her strength, she would never do so because, despite what the church and angels in heaven teach, she would never desert her allies. In addition, there were two other reasons why she wouldn't go back to hell. In order to open a portal long enough for her to travel, the others would have to contribute what little strength they still had. Naruto would find it difficult to understand why his sisters became literal baby sisters. Second, the uncivilized and violent way they would open the gateway would notify the angels of their existence in Konoha because the spell would require enough magic to alert almost any supernatural being. Although it would be more enjoyable and less troublesome for them, it would also break his dreams and cause him to hate them. Even if she couldn't stand being the object of his hatred for a while, it would kill her. If they ever got wind of it, Lucy would have to kidnap Naruto and send him to hell in order to protect him. Assuming she could pass away, that is. Lucy. She was chest level in Frank's skull when Lucy snapped out of her reverie and saw Pandemonica's feet swinging in the air. "I might need some help," she moaned as Lucy hurried to pull her out. "This is some bullshit," the two grumbled as Pandemonic kicked a nearby chair to the side. "It's not as bad as it looks." With her horns getting longer, Pandemonic said, "Not bad. Not bad. We're stuck as jailbait kids, for hell knows how fucking long, and I was forced to wear strawberry panties. I wear lace for confidence and comfortability." "Okay, I can understand why." Lucy blinked, shocked that Pandemonica's rage had escalated so quickly. Pandemonic interrupted her, saying, "Oh ho ho, no you don't, you have no idea how pissed I am." As Lucy calmed her down by holding her hand, she yelled, "I hate this. I want him to come home with us, not be in this primitive hellhole that's gah." She lunged as her anger subsided. "These after effects are annoying. I'm sorry, I haven't been like that since I was born in hell," she said. "Look, you just need to endure this for just a bit longer, okay? At least for him?" Lucy asked. Lapse of mindset. Pandemonica sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "I'm fine, another week and I won't lose it again," she said. The bookworm girl turned to face the Queen of Hell. "How the hell are we going to keep Frank from shutting down? The fact that we need magic to keep him running is a catch-22, she said, looking at Lucy's vacant expression. "It's from a book. Oh right, you spent a better half of your time with him in bed. It means we can't really keep this up," she said. "I can provide. I might have an idea," Lucy replied, glancing at her palm as a black flame appeared. "How much money do we have to use?" she said, glancing at the most intelligent member. Pandemonica quickly calculated the figure, asking, enough to buy every brothel in the red light district. Why? Lucy whispered in her ear as the normally exhausted girl appeared excited, saying, "Oh ho ho, I like it," for the first time. As she and the other two were making money from a street game, Justice laughed and said, "Come on, I'm blind, how can I cheat on this ball in a cup game?" By right, she should have lost if she hadn't used magic to cheat the cheater in front of her. "Well, I leave," she promised, almost tripling their money, ignoring the man who begged her to return so he could get his money back. Strada whistled, astonished. "Phew, look at you, raking in all that dough." As the blind lady slid the cash into his pocket, Naruto pointed to the sobbing con artist and said, "How did you win?" "No one ever beats him, I lost like 4,000 Rio, and you're giving it to me." I got enough money to buy some gym stuff," she said, concerned that she wouldn't be able to purchase any with the girl's money. Justice needed to create custom items to match the equipment in hell. Unfortunately, there isn't any Wi-Fi in this world, which made cardio much more enjoyable when she wanted to watch anime or porn. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, take it, it's all yours, kiddo." Justice replied, "Buy something nice for yourself." With a wicked glance at her buddy, Strada said, "Wow. Making yourself Naruto's sugar mama? Damn, and I thought Lou was horny." As she dragged Naruto into a store, she used a basic illusion spell to make him appear different so that the customers wouldn't bother him. Yeah, do us a favor and be on the lookout for any sales the market is doing," she added. "No cigs or drinking openly," the bitch demon hissed, obviously offended by the chain smoker's obvious spit on the floor. She really wanted a triple shot of her favorite whiskey, which would be whatever her sister was into. "Phoo, wait, what?" she asked, noticing something out of the corner of her eye. As he browsed the store, Naruto thought, "This is weird," and pondered why he hadn't been ejected yet. Justice raised an orange in front of him and said, "Maybe curry? Is this a red or white onion?" "And yes, I know it's an orange, I was trying to get you to help," he said. As Justice crouched down to look at the other produce on the lower shelves, Naruto pouted and said, "Sorry, and sure on curry, anything else?" Justice muttered, "I know Lou can't handle hot food, the triplets love any meat, Molina loves anything boozy, Strada has been smoking for so long that I doubt she can taste anything, sweets are the only thing in Baffet's head, since the need to eat is now a major concern because eating will also help regain magic." She recalled a goddess in the north side of the heavens that gained her magic when drinking, so that was entertaining. Naruto gave Justice an odd look. "I guess we're getting lots of food." "No, it's not that," he added, pointing down to see Justice's but was partially whale-tailing out from behind. "Your butt is showing, he muttered, his face hinting at redness. "Oh thanks, he's still accustomed to wearing this," Justice remarked, turning her head with a silly smile. She pulled up her slacks and lowered her panties a little. "I usually wear, carrot panties." "Oh God, halt." I vowed never to do it again. When the two heard a woman's voice outside, they hurried to see. Whoa, the woman who was yelling startled Naruto, who yelled minutes ago. "God, I missed that brand." Strada strained her voice as she held in the cloud of cancer in her lungs, pulling up a cigarette disguised as a lollipop to take a moment to do her favorite hobby, a small huff and puff. A few seconds before, she observed someone who had lately captured her attention, the object the person was holding. Click, a camera, huh? One of those instant ones back when I used to pop back on topside when I first started out, the girl muttered, ignoring the scene and carrying on smoking when she noticed another shot. Confidently, she took note of the camera's angle and looked at the location of the shots, wondering why that person was taking so many. Justice isn't a little girl, she would laugh it off, she thought, mentally waving off the sight of the man taking more pictures of Justice's naive nature. Fortunately, it stopped making her relax at the silence once more. The pervert can live to do whatever he wants. Damn fucking brat ruined my fun. As she looked forward, she noticed Naruto helping Justice adjust her clothes while the man complained. She could not tolerate it, so she got up and approached the man while capturing the moment on video. Hey, return that. I own it. Pew. The girl merely exhaled an ungodly amount of smoke as the man couldn't hold his breath long enough and coughed at the amount she spat out. Ha. Absolutely not. The girl grinned slyly, her face embodying the phrase, "You're fucked." XXXXX. Wow, Naruto yelled as he observed Strada rearranging an adult face with tiny fists as he was on his knees and helpless to stop her blow. Thunk thunk. As she put her hands at her hips, Justice smiled broadly and said, "Ugh." The girl turned to face Naruto, who was taken aback by the scene. She then pointed to a few unposed pictures of Justice's butt and moaned incredulously, "He, perv. Look. That dude was capturing photos of that tiny girl's rear end." As soon as the three children had to step aside because the women were kicking the man even harder, a mother yelled. To see this side of Strada, Naruto stood there gazing astonished, almost in awe. When Strada liked a game that matched her high standards, Naruto's eyes shone in a cute way that the demon could recall. It was the kind of gaze that left someone so impressed that they had to have a face to match it. "Wow, you're so awesome." The identical expression he had. Many thousands ago, when Strada defeated the Queen of Hell's boyfriend, she let out a loud huff, saying, "Didn't expect me to flip you like a goddamn egg, huh?" The man on the floor sat up with a big smile on his face, and she was furious that it took her so long to get his attention. That was incredible. "You're incredible," the blonde man laughed heartily, and her heart skipped a beat at the sight of his innocent smile. Current moment. "Hey, thanks, but words alone won't convince me." She joked while playing with his hair before leaving them behind, ignoring her friend's complaints on not having enough for dinner. The girl let out a girlish laugh, "Ahahaha. Come on, let's see if we can have something to snack on while we shop." It feels exactly right. She hasn't felt that way in millennia. Justice watched in disbelief as she saw Strada. In her long life, she had never seen her harem sister and co-worker smile so broadly, not even when their former Naruto was still alive. She was so happy that the normally sluggish girl would voluntarily assist them, but she remained silent, content that Betrayal Demon was once again as happy as she once was. Justice couldn't help but worry as the three of them kept shopping. Was she truly okay with this? She was content to see Naruto happy, but should she be here with the others to fall in love with him and be with him when all those terrible millennia were because of her own faults? She was certain that no one could defeat the first High Prosecutor of Hell, a powerful individual chosen by Queen Lucifer to guard and maintain Hell under her strict regulations. However, all of that vanished in a single terrible moment. She couldn't recall how it happened. Possibly she blocked it to protect her sanity, but she could see darkness and knew Beelzebub was gone. She saw that Naruto's life force was dwindling, but even the price of losing her sight was worthwhile if it meant Lucy's crown was safe. Hey! When the girls saw that Naruto was softly calling for her, the former High Prosecutor's eyes opened. Sup? Was Strada a troublemaker? Despite being blind, she managed to locate and target the demon in her investigation, who simply flipped off justice, she remarked, lowering her sunglasses. Naruto shook his head and said, no, not really, you were kind of spacing out. Justice simply grasped her chin, seemingly absorbed in her thoughts, asking, was I? She smiled as though she hadn't been discovered. Yes, how are you feeling? It's nothing to worry about, kid, she smiled, ruffling his hair, just thinking about happier times, she said, pointing to her eyes as Naruto closed his mouth, knowing he shouldn't say anything more. The woman's smile appeared more natural, but the blonde could swear her eyes behind her sunglasses seemed sad. Strada and Justice carried the majority of the goods in their arms, while Naruto only carried 2 or 3 bags, but the 3 persisted and eventually gathered enough food to feed 6 families. Strada groaned to herself, well, that should keep us fed for a long time, hoping to get this work done quickly because she detested doing things that would allow her to be idle, and being productive wasn't her personality. Yeah, Justice nodded while laughing, but she paused when she heard buzzing and took a moment to gather herself. We should get home soon, she said. Take a walk, sides I got to talk to her royal assholeness, and stop torturing yourself, Strada said as she headed to Justice, and someone grabbed all of her baggage. Naruto nodded in agreement, but he was also unaware of the girl's brief hesitation. Justice appeared momentarily taken aback by her friend's idea, but, I let him die. She could hardly recall the treacherous bitch's appearance, but all the Justice care was killing her. Damn what Queen Lucifer wanted, exile. Justice is what this fly bitch gets, in her opinion. A younger Justice grinned as she punched the freckled face of a lady in a red suit. Even when Beal *ZRRT* tried to go all out, she could easily manage it because she was the strongest. What you get is this, Justice gasped, joy and contentment sweeping over her, everything till now, everything was for this moment. To bring your bitch ass down from your lofty position. Unlike me or Lucy, who wanted more out of just such mundane fleeting moments, the freckled woman said with a sly smile as she clapped her hands as black pillars were made and almost stabbed Justice, who easily smashed them into pieces with her 2 fists. As always, you were always one to give into simplest joys like harming others, she said. The High Prosecutor was content to be alive at the moment and didn't care or chastise the high-class demon. Any final remarks before I permanently knock you out? Strada has nothing on her, and the young girl could learn a few things from the strongest demon in hell, Justice sneered as she put her foot on the traitor's throat and enjoyed her strangling cries. Patu, Justice's eyes widened, and she forgot that the Beal was a fly in every aspect, including the acidity of her spit, and that was the last thing she ever saw again. Justice released Beal's throat and staggered back and away from him, screaming in agony, "Gah! What a bitch you are! My eyes," she screamed while clutching her face and doing her best to wipe away the caustic liquid, but when she opened her eyes, she saw nothing. So proud of yourself for being the strongest, Justice gasped, trying to focus on the voice, looking around frantically. But unfortunately, just like the humans above, once you take something needed for the right job, well, it's over from that point, isn't it? The woman staggered back and fell back hard as she tried to figure out how to move up. Oh, swing and a miss, sweetie, she said as she swung forward and struck nothing but air. Fuck you. You've passed away. I will murder you. As she stumbled to her feet and swung frantically, Justice screamed, but she continued to go missing. No, you will break. Ah, you, bitch that. Justice cried out in agony as she felt a sharp heel enter her body and just pop off the joint, dislocating her knee. "Oh, what's wrong?" the voice said before it started to drift away as Justice heard her tone went from a jovial cocky voice, into quiet and worried once with the next words, "Naruto. Nah, get out of here, she's too strong, get dash." Justice said, sensing her eyes widen. As she felt secure, she began to feel his arms encircle her. Justice believed she could defend Naruto and prevail in this battle. However, she was unable to save a single life. Damn it. Justice shook her head and sighed to herself, "What the devil am I doing?" she asks herself as she sits on a grassy hill and watches Naruto skip rocks. He wanted to help her unwind and took her to his favorite spot to escape from adults, which is close to the park where he first met Lucy. "Sigh," she murmurs, pulling out her sunglasses, putting them in her shirt pocket, and stroking her closed eyelids. Age, wisdom, experience, and, finally, her past mistakes made her stronger. However, if you questioned her honestly, she would give anything to correct that one error and return to her innocent fighting self if it meant that her guilt would simply go away. "I really wish I was more like Lou or Baps," she said. They were carefree and usually kept their heads level, except for Naruto. She got up and forced herself to look up at the sky, muttering, "Damn," before yelling, "I am Aia Huji Dumy." When the girl laughed loudly and then fell back into the soft grass, he smiled. "Ah, that felt good, and feel a lot better," she added to herself, apparently staring at the sky, even though she was blind, but at least she could feel the cool breeze rushing past her being. "This feels nice too," she said, obviously shocked by the sight of Justice screaming her head off. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, a lot actually, guess I've been filling my head with bad thoughts, but I'm feeling much better, alley-oop." Justice nodded, looking to the left, where the voice had come from. To sit up straight, she leaned up and said, "I'm sorry to concern you again." "Well, help skip rocks, I don't want to go back to just playing with myself," Naruto pouted, even though he could tell the woman meant it this time. Despite their similar height, Justice snorted as she rubbed Naruto's spiky hair. "Sure, whatever, child, whatever you want," she said, ignoring his pout. "How's Dash?" Thud. Boom. Holy shit. That tree blows up and falls because of you. When the girl's throw was so powerful that it ripped a hole into the trees, forcing them to fall, Naruto yelled in surprise, "What did you eat that caused this?" Justice tossed feebly, forgetting that even at her casual level, she could kick a house to pieces. Whoops. Damn, she flexed her hand to test her adjusted power and picked another stone. "Alright, let's try this again," she said, before throwing it again, this time around being more gentle. Naruto watched as she threw again. It reached the other side with a skip. Did it succeed? Justice laughed as Naruto muttered, "You suck." Even someone as laid back as she was taken aback and squeaked when she felt Naruto's hand on her own. "Hey man, I'm blind as an old bat with messed up glasses, of course I suck," she laughed. "Here it's not power, you need the speed and spin," he said as he put a rock in her palm and she felt the tips of his fingers reveal her own, the flat side of the rock. Okay." After guiding her, Naruto stood behind her and grasped her wrist. "Here," he said. "What's the kid doing?" Justice asked herself as she felt her face gradually heating. As he turned her body to the right, she soon felt his body almost on top of hers, and then, "Please, please, please, please." Aha. 5 times, fantastic, Justice grinned quietly at what Naruto had done. With a quiet sigh, the woman in the child's body said, 5 huh? She said, sitting on the grass once more and tossing another rock, hearing it skip a few times. 4. 3. Naruto hurled another rock. As Naruto sat next her, the woman muttered to herself, for now, I'll just enjoy this moment, while Justice listened to the quite pleasant splashes their rocks produced. Naruto complained, I couldn't get it past 4, hoping to get a 6er this time. Justice laughed, ruffling his hair once more, thanks, you'll get there, kid, it just takes practice and a lot of luck, he said. When Justice smiled at him and tilted her head slightly, the blonde gave him a questioning glance. It's nothing, let's get some ramen, my treat, she said. She gave the young man a lovely V sign as she grinned. Yes. Egg and pork miso ramen. Naruto raised his arms in triumph and cheered. Then tonkatsu ramen with extra pork, and perhaps a nice tonkatsu cutlet. Justice said, cupping her chin, she put her left hand on her waist and grinned broadly. Perhaps today wasn't going to be as horrible as expected. Naruto's new home. We've returned home, Justice and Naruto remarked as they observed Frank sporting a humorously little chef's hat and a white apron. As Naruto glanced at the name, he added, you guys, hope you brought some appetites, we're making fajitas, which are small slices of meat with sautéed veggies, usually bell peppers and onions. Oh, Naruto said, nodding in comprehension. Oh, you guys are back, Naruto said as he heard footsteps going down the stairs and saw it was Lucy. The man was still setting the table. It took some time, but now the golem is smiling contentedly at Frank. Yes. Justice smiled, just had ramen with the kiddo. The girl sighed, of course, Lucy remarked with a little frustrated smile, but even in a new reincarnation, her lover's love for that soup was always a strange thing she had to endure, as she was more of a hearty stew woman than for noodles. Lucy noticed Baphomet approaching her with a goat plush toy in her hands as Naruto was seated with the females. Is it finished? The wealthiest demon in hell smirked and nodded as the Queen of Hell inquired, her arms crossed. Yes, everything is prepared for use. I don't understand why you want a nightclub right now. What's the point? She asked, handing the girl a small piece of paper. Precautions, we need the power and father knows that we are going to stay here for a long while, might as well learn to keep a good ear on the ground and make some friends, Lucy said with a smile as she saw Naruto assist Frank with laying the plates. Baphomet was chuckling as she stated, very well, Your Highness, the nightclub shall be finished within the week, we got both night and daytime crews, with the amount of money for both interior and exterior, all you need is some quality liquor and women and you're set. Lucy arched an eyebrow and said, how about? Setting is in the higher class people, adult Chunin and Jonin tend to go to areas to help de-stress, I already got the prices down to the lowest for rent, water, power and gas bills, so even if you're in the red, Baphomet said with a smirk. Unlikely with this many advantages, but again, the area is good, wealthy clients, and a good amount of, are kind to exploit. Lucy bowed and said, thank you, much appreciated. Remember, after your first time, I get second dibs on getting fucked, with him in goat form. Baphomet said, placing a hand on her hips. As Lucy scowled, she smirked and replied. As Baphomet scowled, Lucy said, cute furry. Human looks, but his shaft can be a goat if you like. The Queen of Hell gave in to her other demons' craving for such immoral pleasures. Eek, you're the best Queen Lucifer, the girl said, grinning even more as she gave her harem sister a hug. Oh, by the way, are you sure you want that name to be on the deed? the woman said gravely, losing her joyful tone. Of course, never have I ever been ashamed of that name, even when my sisters used it as a way to tell others not to be like me. I shall never let this name be changed, Lucy said, nodding while teasing a strand of her hair. The goat lover gave a somber nod as she moved to the table to sit next Naruto. Lucy glanced at the deed, which said, Nightclub, Lux, and grinned as the name indicated who owned it. The Lucifer Morningstar. Evening. When he felt a weird weight at his side, Naruto opened his eyes and looked at Lucy, who was whimpering, Michael, don't hate me. As she shook in embarrassment. For the few time he knew her, the blonde watched her shape and thought she would never be this way. He lay back down and moved his hands closer her, holding it till her scowl gradually disappeared and he heard Sleep voice again, my light. Happy that his new sister was now okay, Naruto went back to sleep, unaware that Konoha will soon meet the rebel in heaven.